What's going on, everyone? Greg here, back with my initial impressions after using the iPhone XR after 24 hours. I'm going to be talking about my overall initial impressions with this phone, some things I like about the phone, and some things I'm not liking about the phone. And let's talk about the design first. I think the first thing you really have to mention when you cover the iPhone XR are just the beautiful colors you get with this phone. This is the coral version of this phone, and it just looks so nice in that nice coral color. Obviously, there's blue, yellow, red. There's also black and white versions. I think if you're really considering this phone, be different. How many times do you buy a black, white, silver phone? Really go for one of these new colors. They really look nice. Check them out in the stores. I think you're going to be really surprised how much you actually like these colors. Also, I really like the design of the rear single camera on the back of the phone as opposed to the iPhone XS where it has the two camera system. It just looks a lot cleaner overall in the design of this phone, and even like the microphone and flash right here, I think it has a really nice clean back to this phone, and again, with those colors, it just pops. So one of the more common complaints I'm seeing down in the comments below is this black bezel running around the iPhone XR, and apparently Apple had to make a bigger black bezel for the iPhone XR as opposed to the iPhone XS to fit the LED backlighting that's required for an LCD display. It is slightly bigger than the XS and the XS Max on those black bezels, and I do notice them when I'm looking at the phone, but I really don't think it's a big issue. I think it's a fine compromise in order to get that LCD display in the phone. By no means is it a deal breaker. It doesn't really bother me. If I look for it, I can see it, but as I'm using the phone, I'm usually just immersed in that big 6.1-inch screen. And yes, I love the screen size of this phone. I love how it fits into the overall body of this phone. Very easy to hold one-handed as opposed to the iPhone XS Max, but you still get a little bit of extra screen real estate as opposed to the iPhone XS. So if you're playing games or you're watching video on this phone, you get the use of that extra screen real estate, but it's still like really easy to fit in your pocket. Now the overall iPhone XR is a little bit lighter too because it's using an aluminum frame as opposed to a stainless steel frame, and there are benefits with that aluminum frame. You're not going to get it as scuffed and scratched easily as you would on the stainless steel frame on the iPhone XS or iPhone XS Max. But there's also a downside to this thing being lighter. While I was charging my phone overnight, I noticed that by the time I woke up in the morning with my alarm going off with this thing vibrating, it actually slipped off the wireless charger. It didn't fall onto the floor or anything like that. It just like barely slipped off the charger, but it did stop it from charging. And that is just an issue you might have to deal with if you pick up this phone. So let's talk more about this screen. The screen on this is actually really good. There's been so much hate on this screen, and you guys know how I feel about it already. It's not a 720p screen. The resolution's actually more closer to 1080. I think it's like 820p or something like that. But yeah, everything looks good, text looks sharp, and if anything, you're actually holding this phone a little farther away than you normally would when you use like an iPhone 8. Because of the increased screen size, you're holding it farther away. So if anything, the text and all the visual imaging looks a lot sharper, and Apple always uses the technologies like wide color gamut in their phone, so you do get some nice wide colors. Everything looks nice and vibrant on the screen, especially when watching some really nice video content. But yeah, vibrant colors, a really good screen to look at. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, and it is truly a top-notch LCD display. One of the things you do lose with that display when Apple had to bend the LCD back into the panel, apparently they lost the ability to do 3D touch. They replaced it with something called haptic touch where you do a long press and you'll actually get a nice little vibration that almost feels like 3D touch, but it's actually not sensing the depth formation of your finger actually pressing harder on the screen. I've actually been missing haptic touch in the keyboard interaction where you can 3D touch onto the keyboard and get the cursor to move around. On the iPhone XR, you can actually hold the spacebar though and get the same exact effect. It just takes a little retraining in your brain to get used to it. Now, unfortunately, I think Apple could have taken haptic touch a little bit farther. Say if you're in your messages on an iPhone XS, you can use 3D touch and you can hold down longer to do the peek and pop animation. So you could press longer to peek into and get a preview of your content window. I don't see any reason why haptic touch couldn't be able to do that in messages. If you currently do that in some of the applications, nothing happens when you have your finger pressed down on that display. It's not like there's already an interaction there that would interfere with it. So I definitely think Apple could implement haptic touch into more areas like you can in Control Center. So performance on this thing has been just as good as the iPhone XS Max. Everything is super smooth, animations are super fluid. There's really nothing slowing this thing down, and that makes sense. It has the same exact A12 processor as found in the iPhone XS and iPhone XS Max. So you're getting top tier flagship level performance with this phone. Running Geekbench, you're getting a single core score of 4,819 and a multi-core score of 111,067. So again, same exact chip, nothing slowing this thing down. Now it's one thing to talk about a spec sheet and say how good the performance is, but really, especially with this A12 chip and that new neural engine processing, you do get some added features like the depth slider from the iPhone XS. So it is a really nice performing chip with some definitely real world benefits and just future-proofing yourself for the future when Apple adds more capabilities to this phone down the line. So one of the things that people have been asking a lot, and it's actually been touted on Apple's webpage, is that the iPhone XR gets really good battery life. And after using it for a day, I can say that's pretty much true. So I've been using it as a GPS, using it for navigations in the car, playing music, using it for watching video, browsing the web, basically all day, and this thing easily lasted me throughout the day with around like a 50% battery life at the end of the day with heavy use. Again, I would still need to go a full day, 6 a.m. to like 12 o'clock at night to really give this thing a battery showdown to see how good it is. But this morning, I actually had a phone call with a friend, and I was on the phone for an hour, and my battery life after a 1 hour phone call was still 100%. That is a really good indication of just how well this battery is performing. Again, still need to do some more testing on the battery life to see if it is the battery life champ, but from my initial first hands-on use, I'm getting more battery life than my iPhone XS Max. Okay, another important thing to cover in these first 24-hour impressions is the camera. Obviously, this is a single lens camera. You are missing out on that 2x zoom right away, but so far it hasn't been bothering me. Pictures have been looking really vibrant on it. It does a really good job, and obviously it should. It is the same exact wide-angle camera as found on the iPhone XS and iPhone XS Max. I was taking some example shots yesterday, and it performed really well. It still gets those nice, really blue skies that I love with the iPhone XS camera. Just really nice colors, really vibrant pictures, really good HDR on the iPhone XR. And I'm really liking the portrait mode with the wide-angle lens on the iPhone XR. And you can actually get lower light portrait shots because it's using that wide-angle lens, and that aperture lets in more light than the zoom lens on the iPhone XS. The portrait mode definitely has a different bokeh effect as the 2-lens camera system found on the iPhone XS, and I'm not ready to give a full detailed comparison on it. I gotta take a lot more sample shots with the iPhone XR and the iPhone XS to compare the bokeh effects. They're definitely different, but I do think they look good on the iPhone XR. However, there is a few disadvantages to the portrait mode on the iPhone XR, and that would be that the portrait mode only works on human faces right now. On the iPhone XS, you could actually take portrait mode shots of pets and objects, and for the iPhone XR, it really only identifies human faces. I'd say most of my portrait shots with the iPhone XS are definitely used on human subjects, but there is the occasional time where I will take a portrait mode object of a pet or of a object, and you just can't do that on the iPhone XR, so that is one of the biggest negatives going against it in that camera system. Also, the lack to do studio lighting effects with the rear-facing camera, like the mono studio lighting. You can't do that with the rear-facing camera, but you can do that with the front-facing camera. And speaking of the front-facing camera, same exact one found on the iPhone XS and the same exact problems found on the iPhone XS if you are against the way it's currently taking photos, where sometimes it looks like it's giving it a smoothing effect due to it taking a longer exposure frame as opposed to a sharper frame. I covered that more in my iPhone XS Max review if you're interested. But Apple will be releasing a software update with iOS 12.1, which should be fixing that issue, but it will also be changing the way the selfie portraits look in the iPhone XR. So I'm really interested to see how those look, because I don't think the selfie shots look bad in this, but I can definitely see how some people think it might be smoothing them out. So as I use the iPhone XR, I keep looking for flaws, I keep looking for a catch. I think there has to be some sort of compromise you're making, some sort of big deal breaker to get this style of phone for $750. There has to be a catch, right? As hard as I look for negatives in this phone, I really can't find too many. Obviously, you're losing that second lens, you're losing that portrait mode, you're not getting an OLED display, but for $750, you're getting a complete iPhone X-like experience, you're getting Face ID, you're getting the same processor, you're getting the same wide-angle camera, the same front-facing camera, the same interactions with this phone. It is just a really good deal at $750. And I don't think there's too many compromises so far. Obviously, I want to spend a little more time with this phone before I give the full review, but if you guys are interested in buying it right away, I definitely am giving it a recommendation so far based on my use cases. It's definitely hard for me to recommend you guys upgrading to the iPhone XS. I can see you guys upgrading to the iPhone XS Max if you want the maximum 6.5 inch screen. But for me, if you're going between the iPhone XR and the iPhone XS, the XS does have a few advantages, but I gotta say guys, the iPhone XR, it's hard to beat. I would definitely recommend this phone as it stands today. Okay everyone, thanks for watching the video. Obviously if you guys have been around my channel, there are a lot of new people here, but if you guys have been around my channel, you know I like to spend a lot longer than 24 hours with a phone before I make a recommendation. But I know there's a big demand for me to give more impressions on this phone, so I just wanted to give you a 24-hour follow-up. I really do hope you guys appreciate it, and I hope you guys found it useful. As always, guys, if you liked the video, make sure you give me a like if you want to see more content from my channel, including more content of the iPhone XR. Make sure you're subscribed if you guys are new to the channel, and there are a lot of new people coming to the channel. I do sell merch. If you want to support the channel in any way, that is currently the best way to support the channel. And this is actually one of the shirts I sell on my store. It's called the Selfie Shirt. It's a really nice stylized version of a shirt. You got the Greg's Gadgets logo, a girl taking a selfie, just a really cool style shirt. And for all you new people out there, for anyone who's old, new fan, whatever, I'm going to be putting a promo code in the link and in the comments down below. We're going to do a 20% off promo code for all the new people out there who want to get a Greg's Gadget shirt, a mug, or anything out there that I sell on the Teespring store. If you want to support the channel, just go ahead and purchase something through the link in the description, and I'm really grateful. And you also get a pretty cool looking shirt, so you're also getting something in return. So thank you guys for that, and as always, I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.